there, it's Erica Henry with Rebel Stitchers, and it's another very hot day in Tennessee. I don't really want to be outside today. It's only 9:30 and it is humid, so I'm sure I'm going to get nice and sweaty today. But we have so much stuff to do. I still have more fleeces that need to be washed. I'm almost through with them all. Thank gosh. But then I have to process them all. But those will be more videos for you guys. The Raw Wool to Roving series, I'm so excited to show you. In some of the previous ones, I've showed you my homemade tumbler. I've showed you how I wash wool outside, and I've showed you how I dry wool outside, kind of. I showed you how I spin it out to get ready to put on the drying racks, but today I'm going to show you my drying racks and the different versions that I use. So I hope you enjoy, and it's hot, so I got to make sure to drink plenty of water today. All right, let's get started. Okay, first up, we have this not so pretty contraption here, but I made it. It functions. It worked fine. It was all free materials that I already had around the house, except for the window screen replacements. So it has window screens all the way around to try to help keep things out of it and to keep the wool from flying around. And then it has 4 shelves that have window screens in the bottom. And one thing I love about this is I can spread a lot of wool out on it, even though it only has 4 shelves. However, it's heavy. I can't move it around like the yard to make sure it gets the best breeze or the most sun. So I started looking for other solutions, and also I can't move it inside if it starts raining. So I had to look for other solutions as well. I do still use this, but only on days when I know it's going to be super sunny and very breezy, and that I have finished washing the fleeces in time where I won't have to leave it overnight, because I don't like leaving wool in this overnight. I'm scared moths are going to get into it, so I had to have some better solutions. I also, let me go get it, I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. So I also have some of these. I sometimes use these inside before I had my other setup, and I still use them sometimes. I just had a tension rod that I hung them from in doorways. But they're just these sweater drying rack things. They work well. They're a nice size, but they take up a lot of space. But sometimes I also, when I have a lot of fleeces, will hang them from this metal thing that I have up here. You know, straighten it up where it's nice and level. But that just gives me some more space to be able to hang wool from. And then they fold up nice and compact, but I don't like to use these outside on a windy day because they don't have any way to keep the wool in there and to keep it from blowing away. I can't see the screen anymore, so hopefully everything's in focus. But this is another item that I use. It is a drying rack. It's on wheels. And I added window screen and poked holes in it and had these reusable zip ties. And I make little pouches with them. So I put the wool inside, spread it out, tie the zip ties down, and then it makes these pockets so the wind doesn't blow them away. This has been my favorite thing so far that I have utilized. It holds a lot of wool. They're reasonably priced. I have 3. And they fold down really easy. And then they also can fold in half. But I usually don't do that because I've pinched my fingers too many times. And lastly, these are the newest addition to my drying setup here. I think I'm out of view, but it's okay. So these are racks I got from Joann's. They have holes on the bottom and all of the sides to let air flow through. And it doesn't fit a lot of wool once you start spreading it out, but they stack. And they take up very little space. And then when you're done, they fold down into almost nothing. So I'm very excited about these. I have high hopes. I had this wool in there through the night. It feels really dry, but I figured I would take it outside, let it be in the sun for a while, just to make sure that we are nice and dry, because I need to start processing soon. Oh my goodness, it's so hot here and humid. So sorry I'm all sweaty and red, but that's what happens. I also have a couple of chronic illnesses, and one of those is dysautonomia, and heat flares it up so bad. So I tend to flush really bad and my blood pressure goes crazy, so I have to take lots of breaks. So I'm currently sitting on my back porch with the fan going, trying to cool off some. But I thought I would talk about final thoughts. So I showed you several options of ways that I dry fleeces. These are not extensive. There are many more options. And, you know, I started with what I could afford. I started with one of those hanging sweater racks. Quickly outgrew it. Got another one. I think I have 5 or 6 now. But they were like taking over every doorway in my house. So I had to find another solution. So then I moved to the one that I built, and it was great. It works. It's ugly, but I never said that I'm good at building things, but I can build things. They just may not be pretty. Baker's racks are another option that you can do, and you can make some, you know, trays out of PVC pipe and screen. I've never done it because I don't have a place to store a baker's rack. Maybe one day. But yeah, then I moved to the sweater racks that fold up, that are on wheels. Those have been my favorite solution so far because they fold up and also fold down. But like I said, I don't fold down because I've pinched my fingers every time that I have tried to fold it down. But again, I had an issue with there was no way to hold the fiber down. So then that's when I thought, I've got a bunch of reusable zip ties. I have a bunch of this replaceable screen here. I have a bunch of this screen replacement. So let me see if I can make a little sandwich thing out of it and keep my wool. And I've loved it. Those have been my favorite thing that I have done so far. The reason that I got the trays that I showed you was because currently I work out of my house, and fiber takes up a lot of space, and the average person who's not, you know, washing 3 fleeces every day, you know, some of this is overkill, but for me, it's my business. I wash a lot of fleeces, I dye a lot of fleeces, I process a lot of fleeces, so I have to find the most efficient, space-saving way that I can that also dries quickly, because, you know, time is money, and fiber is not, because, you know, time is money, and fiber is a slow process. It's one of the things I love about it, but whenever you're doing it for your business, like, you still have to make it as quick as possible. So yeah, so I moved to the trays. Those I just got last night. First time that I've tried them out, so you guys get to see them first. And so far I've really liked them. I think they're going to be amazing for when I'm dyeing fiber, so I can keep each of the colors separate and be able to label them. I'm going to use reusable zip ties, make a little note on a piece of paper, punch a hole through it, tie it to it. That way I can remember which recipe goes with which basket or tray. So I think they're going to be wonderful for that. I think for drying fleeces, for the most part, I will continue to use the one on the rollers, or the ones on the rollers, because I have 3. But when I don't have a lot to process, or I'm dyeing and I want to keep them separate, the trays I think are going to be a great solution. So all this to say, this has been a year-long process of, let's let that airplane go by. But after saying all of this, you don't have to have a huge, enormous setup. Like, I know I'm not the average person when it comes to fleeces. I do way more than the average person. If you're looking to do this for a living, I've got some great tips. I've got some solutions, but don't feel like you have to go out and buy a ton of stuff because whenever you're processing fleeces, because it can get expensive very quickly, and there are a lot of things that you may already have that can work. I mean, even a towel laid out on a table will dry fleeces. It'll just dry it slower. In one of my other videos, I showed you the 2 ways to spin out fleeces that I use. I used a salad spinner for, and I think I said 1 year earlier, but I think it's been 2 years. So this is a 2-year process. But when I first started out, I just had that $30 salad spinner. I used it for 2 years. I processed tons of fleeces with it. It worked. It just wasn't as efficient as my new spin dryer. And especially when I was first starting out, like, I didn't know if I was going to like processing raw fleeces. So I went with what I could find locally or already had. I laid out a towel on the table and put the washed wool on there. It worked. It dries a whole lot slower than something that allows airflow throughout the whole thing, but it worked. So that's my point, is use whatever you have. I just want to give you some ideas of things that work for me. So I hope you've enjoyed watching the videos so far. There are many more to come because all we've done is prepare the fleeces by washing them, or, well, blowing them. Even though I didn't show a video of that, I just showed my setup because I had already blown them all out using the tumbler before I started recording this. But I showed you how I wash, how I dry, and I've done a comparison of Unicorn Power Scour versus Dawn when it comes to washing, and then I showed you how I dry them. So, but this series is raw wool to roving. So I'm going to show you how I pick through the fleeces. These have already been, all the ones that I've done so far have been pretty heavily skirted already before I washed them. Otherwise, that's kind of the step after I put them through the tumbler. I like to go ahead and skirt them really fiercely. But these have all been pretty skirted well, so I didn't worry with that step this time. I may regret it because it's just going to add more work at the picking stage, but we'll see. So I hope you've enjoyed it so far. Please subscribe, like, all that good stuff. You know the drill, and I'll see you in the next video.